Alright. Let's get this all set up. That's it, I think. Hello, everybody. It's a beautiful day. I have some fresh cheese at last. New Zealand's slowly coming out of lockdown. This isn't my usual brand of blue cheese, but it's just as good. Nice and blue, as you can see. Oh, get my microphone over here. Fresh cheese, so good. Good morning. I've got my screen somewhat far away from me today, so you may see a bit of squinting. Mr. L, what's a good Drizzt novel and a good non-Dark Elves one? Anything in the Crystal Shard saga is pretty good. Doesn't feature a lot of Dark Elves at the start, but pretty much the Crystal Shard. Where are we? That's these ones. Oh, I've got a lot. I have a lot of Drizzt books. Sith dark cheese. Yeah, the my camera setup's a little bit different today. I know, Ryan. Yeah, I didn't have a stream yesterday because I was in the early hours of the morning. I was attending a live streaming event. The mead is very, very good, and I'm tempted to have. I'm going to have regular mead streams with you. Wait, what? When did you go bald? Pretty much during the lockdown. A lot of people deal with their hair problems in various ways. That's my excuse. I've never actually gone to a barber for the last probably 20 years. Is the last time since I went to an actual professional hair cutting person. I always cut my own hair, but I just sort of embraced the baldness. It's about time. And I do kind of look like Mordenkainen, so why not? Camera looks wider angle because it's further away from me, basically. Hey, Damien. So, the subject today, there's a couple of subjects. One is the question that I get asked quite a lot, which is, my character is dealing with evil forces, or my character has been transformed to a monster. Do I automatically have to turn evil? Or what about famous characters like Drizzt Do'Urden, for instance? If he got turned into a Drider, would he turn evil? And the question there's multifaceted answers. One, a character in a novel or a computer game is under the control of the people who write the novel or the computer game. It's not the same as a role-playing game. So Drizzt in novels or in a computer game is never going to turn evil. However, as soon as you turn that person, that character from a book or a movie or game into a role-playing character for a pen and paper tabletop role-playing game, and that character sheet as a non-player character or a player character hits the table and starts rolling dice and will saves or wisdom saves, then all bets are off and you follow the rules. Unless it's a non-player character that's entirely under the control of the DM, then but to be fair, usually I have the rules apply to NPCs just as much as they apply to player characters. In fact, sometimes NPCs in my games get negative side effects happen to them more often, just to highlight to the players that it's actually quite dangerous, even for non-player characters. Mead streams. So, yeah. But the answer to that question is yes, Drizzt could turn evil if he was turned into a Drider, if he was in a role-playing game in an actual session. in which case it's entirely a possibility that he would roll a wisdom save or a will save if you're playing older editions and fail and turn evil and roll on madness tables and things like that, for sure. Same thing with the character that's transformed into a werewolf or a vampire or a revenant or whatever, possessed by an evil artifact. These things happen, and we've got mechanics in the game that can deal with it. But it's entirely up to the choice of the person who is running the game whether they actually want to do that to that non-player character. If it's a player character, again, the DM has a say on whether they have to make a will save or not. The DM can just rule, oh well, your wisdom's over 16, so you pass. They can just make an on-the-spot decision like that. It's entirely under their control. So, it's an interesting sort of debate, particularly when it comes down to whether monsters are inherently evil or not, whether a vampire is inherently an evil creature or not. Same sort of thing applies. What tradition of vampirism or werewolfism or lycanthropy in general, or the effects of an evil artifact or a transformative process or a mental trauma or whatever, how does it work in your game? It's entirely up to you. What tradition you follow, what you personally believe gets injected into your game. So it's entirely subjective, and it's up to you. Embrace the baldness, yeah. Slightly drunk AJ is second best AJ next to narrator AJ. Okay, I'll take that, Emil. Thank you. Hey, Greenslive. Yes, thank you, Bright Glory. Everybody hit the like button. Thank you. It helps. Morden Canaan's Tome of Cheese. I would buy that. It's a Monday over here. It's a Sunday some other places. I believe it's Monday most places, maybe. Drist may be protected, sure. Illustrae, by the way, is spelt with an E. It would take a powerful Sith to dominate the mind of a dragon. Indeed, it would take a powerful anything. Oh, we just had a big drop-off in viewers there. I hope it didn't offend anybody. So, also coming up this week, I've had an interesting reaction to the videos last week and the week before. But we're getting back onto the hot topic sort of videos are coming up. So videos on the silver and gold dragon are on the way. Individual videos for individual dragon types for the remastered dragon series. The gold dragon in particular is gold dragons have a very rich history in their rulership on the Forgotten Realms. During the Age of Dragons, they were highly important. They ruled over several elven kingdoms. So they were leaders, rulers, emperors of humanity and the elves and other beings who were just arriving on the planet, sort of thing. The dragons definitely are a creator race, so they had stuff to do with creating, different dragon offshoots. I'll allow that comment. So yeah. Just one save or save each time you need to resist the urge. Again, Dragon Turtle, that's entirely subjective. Hey, thanks, Stanchskate. Like to say, start off good and slowly over time, given the easiest... Like to say they start off good and slowly over time, given to the easier solution. Yep. Drist has infinite plot armor. Yeah, pretty much. That's what it comes down to. Silver were my first favourite metallic dragons before I settled into bronze. Yeah. I'd be interested actually in hearing everybody's opinions on their favourite metallic dragons. Hey, Happy Noodle. So Dragon Master Remastered Dragon series, ongoing with that, including more devils, stepping away from demons for a little while to cover things like the Pit Fiend and other ones which have been in the works, and people have been asking me for Pit Fiend over and over and over again. I am listening. I have also the video on Imaska, which I'm working on right now. So the ancient empire of Imaska, then the later resurgence 4,000 years later of the empire of, well, the settlement of High Imaska, which was from people who are from Deep Imaska coming back to the surface world and trying to re-establish their rule. But it didn't work because of the spell plague and the Second Sundering. So talking about ancient Imaska is talking about the ancient world and the mysteries of the imaska arcana, which are these artifacts which hold all of their magical knowledge, and there's very, very scant and few bits of information about them. There's more fake imaska than there are real ones, but the real artifacts are incredibly potent. So I talk about those, and I talk about their culture, their rise. I also talk about the parallel evolution of civilization on Earth at the same time, because the Imaskari Empire is why we know exactly what the date difference between the world of Tyrell and the world of Earth is, because the Imaskar people created portals. They were masters of portal and demi-plane magic. All forms of magic, actually, that they sort of collected it up from the ancient creator races. And yeah. So, and then along came on the further to the east, the Netheril Empire popped up later on, but they really were nothing compared to how powerful and how widespread the Imaskar Empire really was. BMCM, I get that a lot. A lot of people watch the videos and stuff, they love the lore, but they don't actually play D&D. So I don't often include a lot of mechanics these days in my videos, just for that very reason. Also because people from are playing different editions. So if I concentrate solely on 5th edition, it kind of leaves a lot of people who have been loyal to the game and carried the game on over the years, sort of in the cold a little bit. And I don't really want to do that. I like playing. I've played all of the editions of D&D apart from the very first box set, and I've liked them all. It's one thing to be bald, another thing to have an unashamedly efficient hairstyle. A little bit of both. Like, I've definitely got a patch. How do you stay on topic with your story? Basically, follow it through to its end, the Viking guy. So, if you tie your plots in with your characters' motivations, like the player characters in the game, and tie it into with them, you'll find you'll follow a sort of a trail where it leads continually back to character development, I think, is the main thing. Dan Harmon Story Circles, yeah. You can play a diceless campaign if you want to. It's entirely possible. I do Dragon Turtle answer questions about older videos, for sure. I'm happy to answer questions about petitioners if you have any. The Were Dragon is the Song Dragon. You find them in Waterdeep and other places. There's also a Drow Were Dragon as well. Does the Greed Dragon have a character backstory? We can work on that. Certainly. He may actually be a very, very well-trained pseudo-dragon who's just standing still. Because he's the right size, really. Although he'd be a little bit small for a pseudo-dragon. If that doesn't make a dragon move, nothing will. Why do most Dragonborn in 5th edition look metallic? Because they are original creations of Bahamut. In the lore, anyway. So there's the original version of Dragonborn were those who were chosen followers of Bahamut, who were made the offer of being transformed into draconic warriors. And they went through a ritual process where they were reborn as their original, whatever template of humanoid they were, plus draconic features were heavily plastered over top. So you had Dragonborn that looked like dwarves or gnomes or humans or elves, but they were still, Dragonborn, so they looked quite different. Now they've bred true into a race in and of themselves, and that was particularly accentuated with the return of Abeir and the nation which popped up around Chondath and Jacinta, which also had dealings with the High Imaska Empire for an interesting tie-in there. So Dragonborn had become a race proper, but before that they were mortals who swore service to Bahamut, and he transformed them, and they couldn't breed after that because Bahamut said, well, this should be a choice. I don't want to inflict this on infants who don't have a choice in the matter or whether they want to be a Dragonborn or not. But the writers of the game decided that Dragonborn were popular enough to turn into a player character race of their own right, which they fully exploited in 4th edition with a war between a Dragonborn Empire and a Tiefling Empire on a world called Narath, which became the homeworld of 4th edition. I would love to do a video on Vlaakith, the Lich Queen. How do you do a diceless campaign? You basically tell stories. You can come up with various mechanics for how you determine things randomly. Like you might use coin tosses and things like that. I once ran games just using a single d4, which you can do, but it's still a dice game. Why are the Imaskari not so widely well known? Because they existed 8,000 years before the Dale Reckoning calendar even began. They are a truly ancient empire. So to put this in perspective, when the Imaskari were first settling the Ruran Desert, the Ruran Plains, as they were back then, they were already a magically capable society of herders who are nomadic. So they're plains-dwelling nomadic herders, kind of like their shamans and stuff like that were running the tribes. And then when they settled the place on Earth back then, this was the beginning of the Neolithic period. So this was clay pots were just being invented. People were just starting to plant tomatoes and peppers and courgettes and squashes and corn. The agrarian society of the crescent of the Upper Nile and above Mesopotamia was just getting started on Earth, 8,000 BC. So it's an incredible stretch of time in the past. So a lot of their ancient culture and stuff is just stone ruins with windswept, barely legible bits of ancient language, which is at the root of other languages which people can't really translate. So it's an incredibly long stretch of time. Yes, I do listen to some power metal for sure. Can I do a video on what the stats relates to into the real world, i.e. 16 strength and so on? Yeah, I've talked about that in various videos, the attributes and things like that. RPG Science is a really good video. Dorks of Yore, I think is the name of the channel. You should check out Pat Kilbane's RPG Science videos on those sort of things. Like muscle strength, for instance, translates directly into muscle density, and your dexterity translates directly into your nerve conduction speed. It's actually highly accurate. Does Imaska's hatred of the gods and their magic influence the civilization of Netheril? Yes, it absolutely did. So, for instance, the Imaskari people captured clerics and druids and cut them off deliberately from access to their gods by putting them in demi-planes and stuff, and then did experiments on them to see what the source of divine or the connection to divine power was, because they were interested in forming a defense against the gods. And eventually, the doom of their civilization, of course, was a war against gods, a particular pantheon. So we'll get into that in the video as well. Warforged are like the clone troopers. Originally, yeah, pretty much. Diceless games are incredibly diverse, like theatre sports games, improv games, games like Amber Diceless, things like that. It's an entire category, so you can't categorize what a diceless game would be like. They're very, very diverse. Fighters guilds and a video on fighting, the fighter character class for sure. The character class videos are very popular, but as I've repeatedly said, I am very slow at producing those videos because I feel they're intimidating to make. I have high standards for my character class videos. No. The imaska are not... Yeah, no. Don't get them confused with the tieflings and the dragonborn and all that sort of stuff. The imaska were artificers. Artificer kings. So they were a godless society. They didn't worship gods. They considered the gods to be nothing more than powerful beings. Yeah. What do aboleth taste like? Very, very poisonous squid. Question. I'm trying to world build an entirely underground dwarven city, and I was trying to figure out all of the little things that an underground city would need. What all would it need? So it will need, in the Underdark, the heat source is not really much of an issue. There's volcanic vents and things, and it's warm. It's very warm in the Underdark. You don't really need to have fireplaces and stuff in dwellings. In fact, you need to vent heat more than anything. Water sources is quite important. You need streams and things like that are flowing through the settlement or close to the settlement, and they need to be able to use that, and also use that to vent their waste as well. Air cycling is not such a big issue. There's a lot of creatures in the Underdark which can provide oxygen. Fungus and things like that makes up the majority of their cuisine and things. I would suggest getting hold of Elminster's Guide to the Forgotten Realms. This Ed Gredwin presents Forgotten Realms. It's got a lot on dwarven cuisine and culture, including what they drink and stuff, what people's general attire and things are. Of course, you don't need to worry about weather and things like that in underground communities of dwarves. Pay attention to dwarven cultures. There is at least 3 different distinct types of dwarf on Toril alone, and your homebrew world probably has multiple different dwarven cultures and tribal traditions, and the way that they communicate their status and stuff through their clothing and attire, and the way they knit their beards and stuff. Also, think about fortifications and civilizations which live nearby them, and their possible use of resources and trade routes. So they trade for various other things that you can buy get on the surface, such as wood, woven stuff and things like that. They eat a lot of roth, and they are more carnivorous than other races. So a dwarf would not consider soup, even a stew, particularly something with a lot of barley and stuff, or cheese or milk, to be a proper meal. They would only consider a proper meal to be something with meat in it, and they like their meat cooked, well done, quite hard. They also like quite strong alcohol, and a lot of it. Do peritons lay eggs or live young? I believe they have live young. I'll have to look that up, just off the top of my head. Do the Deep Imaskari have any relationships with Grimlocks? No, they don't. The Deep Imaskari do not deal with the Underdark. They don't. Only those who leave Deep Imaska are actually outside of their civilization, and then they don't remember how to get back to their civilization. So they have enclaves and settlements and stuff, or they move out in groups, but they don't have cities and things like that which interact with other Underdark residents. So yeah, it's up to the individuals. I'll be talking about the Deep Imaskari in a video as well. Hey, thanks, Zoroth Rising. By the way, everybody, this is a monetized super chat enabled stream. If you really want to get my attention with questions and stuff, which I'm happy to answer, super chats certainly help. Hey AJ, planning a plot around the negative elemental planes of ash, dust, salt, and vacuum. Could you think of any creatures beside mephits to use? Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Elementals, for sure. Elementals aren't just amorphous or slightly humanoid creatures which are made up of a particular element. You can get all sorts of elemental creatures that look quite similar to normal Earth-like creatures. Like you can get dust spiders and things like that. Also, you get outcasts from other planes of existence, or creatures who have adapted to that environment from the prime material plane, for instance. So you can get ash antelope and things like that. Salt and vacuum and dust and ash, they all have supplements and things from previous editions, the Manual of the Planes and things like that, and also Dragon Magazine articles, a lot of which are available online if you go looking for them. And I'm also quite happy to answer any questions in specific sort of stuff, or if you pop into the Discord channel for the Mighty Glue Stick, you'll probably find a lot of people who are quite willing to have a big long conversation about particular types of animals and stuff that could be from that plane of existence. In fact, we've got a group called the Monster Mash, which is just producing homebrew monsters and things with different themes in mind. I think at the moment we're into the undead, but there's some planar creatures and stuff which I'd like to feature on this channel later on, and also hopefully publish some of those, the majority of those monsters they came up with in some sort of a source book later on. Some foods in D&D that you can make in real life, also dwarven food recipes. Yeah, for sure. There's a lot of information on the cuisine of the Forgotten Realms in this book. It is really fantastic. I've been reading through it in some great detail. One of the things is this marsh stuff that they eat close to marshlands, which was really interesting. In fact, I think I might actually do some readings from this book on the for Patreon subscribers and also on Viewer Prime. I might do like a little preview video, like a segment of it on here on YouTube, and then people who want to watch the rest of it can either become patrons and pay the $1 a month and watch it on Patreon, or those who are members of the YouTube channel here can watch it in the community chat, or people who are subscribing to Viewer Prime can watch the whole thing over there. Yeah, Dragonlance book has got recipes, yep. This is Walter White, I get that too. Yeah, I understand not everybody has money. That's true. Basically, if you don't have money, you just wait for the material to become available. 99 cents. Thank you very much. Dryder's getting their own deity. Interesting, William. Yeah, red dragons are cool. Smorg was particularly eloquent for a red dragon. But I mean, red dragons are very smart. Can Grimlock and humans breed? I think they can, yeah. Oh, I have a particular dislike for dice pool games. Ever since like proprietary dice games where you have to roll specific dice that you have to buy for that game. I hate those. Wait for the material to become available. Me. Pirate. Sure. Look, I don't care if anything that I put out gets pirated and shared as PDFs and stuff, or makes their way onto certain sites where they're available for free, because that's just the ecosystem of the internet. I accept this. For my own stuff, I mean, I'm not saying that that's justification for pirating anybody's work. I'm just saying authors should factor that into what they produce these days. I certainly will, if I ever produce anything. Can a god remove a petitioner from an outer plane and place them somewhere else? Absolutely, they can. Dryder lair actions, yeah, spin web, for instance. Are you going to cover the celestial nadir in the imaska video? Maybe. I don't know. I'll see. I'm going through. There's a lot of material in the imaska video, so some things I'm going to gloss over a little bit. Other things I'm going to go into more detail because they're interesting for people who are running current campaigns. So the imaska arcana, for instance, are more interesting because they're still active in the world. Whereas ancient rulers that did particular things may not be very interesting to people because they're just ancient history and they don't have a lot of living impact on the world currently. But I think just a broad overview of what the imaska Empire was all about so that people who watch the video will know essentially what someone is talking about when they talk about the imaska Empire. Excuse me. I've noticed on the Sages of the Forgotten Realms Facebook group where I posted the image of the extent of the imaska Empire at its height, surprised a lot of people about how big it actually was. Also, I was a little bit inaccurate there and I got corrected almost immediately by those excellent scholars over at the Facebook group, so shout out to everybody there. Hook-handed eye patch, yar, I see. Most pirates would have never been customers. I disagree. A lot of people, pirates, basically look up free PDFs and things like that, and if they like them, they go and buy the books. I am one of those people. I prefer books. I like buying books. I like reading books, but I will check out a PDF if it is available before I make a purchase. Just like going into a store and flipping through a book. If you have eidetic memory, then you may as well have just bought the book, right? Because you remember everything that's on every single page. What's the difference? So the difference is people who look at PDFs as exactly the same as books. They're not really to somebody who likes reading books. I prefer that. That's just my personal opinion. I don't want to sway anyone either way. Well, you could run a survival as a cooking mechanic in your game if you wanted to, Aiden. My party are fighting Tiamat. Any tips? You're probably fighting an aspect of Tiamat, like those dumbed down stats in there of the book. No, I don't really have any tips for players other than read your character sheet, talk with the other players at the table about synergizing your moves together, because you are representing a group of characters who are adventuring together, so they train and practice together in between adventures and stuff, or in the downtime when they're waiting around for 8 hours while the wizard catches up on sleep. They'll be practicing combat moves and stuff. They'll have their little area beside the campfire where they're sparring and things like that. The fighter and the rogue will be going at it with weapons, practicing. The imaska Empire. What kind of historical bias does the Yuan-Ti have? As in America not losing the Vietnam War level bias to Third Reich bias. Oh, I don't know. So Yuan-Ti are a fractured culture, so they're no longer an empire that's in communication with itself. They are enclaves of Yuan-Ti who have been ensconced, lounging away through the centuries because they've got a lot of time and a lot of patience to do things. Like Yuan-Ti, for instance, one of their tactics in dealing with troublesome humans is just to wait around for natural disasters or migrations or war or conflict for that human settlement to either become wiped out or everyone who remembers what was the events at the time to die of old age. So they can literally just wait for a human to die of old age, or become retired and then go and take them out later. So their bias is they don't have an emotional bias. They either have the facts or they don't. They don't feel one way or the other about things. They have a very different emotional makeup than human beings do. Worth your effort to do a small video on D&D IP and copyright, history, lore for the specific creatures, off-brand copycats, etc. Yeah, I suppose so. Thanks for the donation, by the way. Talking about the open game license, maybe, for sure, because Wizards of the Coast has, and D&D in general, has had a very, very generous open game license. They have only a few things which are specifically listed as IP that you can't use for anything that you'll make monetary gain off. That is kind of anything that's behind a paywall. So if it's only found in a book which is for sale, for instance, that's quite different from a video that anybody can view on YouTube. So I am limited in what I can talk about and make videos about and put on exclusive things like Patreon and stuff like that. They all eventually will be viewable by the public, is what I'm saying. If they're dealing with D&D content that's in any source book or anything like that, then they always will be made freely available for people to watch. There may be a time delay, but eventually you'll be able to watch it for free, guaranteed 100% on my channel all the time, because I obey the open game license. If I'm reading an H.P. Lovecraft story from the 1800s or something else that isn't D&D and isn't covered by that, then I'm free to then make my own versions of things. Or if I'm just making up stuff or talking about campaigns that I'm planning and things, then I'm free to put those behind a paywall and leave them exclusive if I wanted to. Typically, it's only like the audiobooks and things which I haven't released. But other than that, pretty much everything else I've released to the public eventually. It may be a year, it may be less. Nothing like the smell of good books in the morning. Yeah, it's true. I definitely have that bug. What are my sources on the Imaska Empire? Glad you asked. The Underdark has information on the Deepo Mascari and also the Imaskari and also the Imaska Arcana. The third, I believe, is talked about in this book. And the Lost Empires of Faerun has got probably the most information from 3.5 edition, and it's probably the most up to date, actually. And it's really good, rich information on those. The Wikipedia has got some information as well. There's also some info in Dragon Magazine articles, particularly about the Imaska Arcana. There's also some information about the fake Imaska Arcana. Yeah, those ones. If that answers your question. But I haven't even finished writing the script on that video yet. I've just really started. Made some good progress on it last night. How would I adapt the world of Dark Souls to the mechanics of D&D? Have you ever looked into the lore of Dark Souls? No, I've never actually played a Dark Souls game. I have no intention of. Are you going to do... it's just not the sort of game that I like. Are you going to do a video on unofficial D&D settings like the Midgard setting for Kobold Press? Yes, probably, since I own all the books for it. I talked about various aspects like their timekeeping and between adventures, timekeeping and stuff like that, which I quite like. But bear in mind, I've got a lot of material to read on my day-to-day and making videos about Forgotten Realms. That's more than enough to keep me busy, which I'm absolutely passionate about. So everything else is on the back burner and off to the side. That's like a passion project, which I'll do. Like, I have hobbies within my hobbies. D&D is my hobby, but it's also my profession. And within role-playing games in general, I have hobbies and passions and stuff as well. Like, I'd love to talk about Warhammer 40k. I'd love to talk about Rifts and Heroes Unlimited and various other games. I'd love to talk about Traveller, you know, the Droin and the Vargara and all that sort of stuff. But, you know, talking about video games and adapting them into D&D, I could talk in general about adapting rules and stuff like that. But, you know... Yuan-Ti bias is towards their own superiority. Absolutely, yes. That's true. Games for the game gods. They do have a lot of bias against things like the Naga, for instance. The Naga were sent out into the world by the Saruk to establish new colonies and things like that. So wherever the Yuan-Ti expanded into, the Naga were already there, and the Naga are really pesky and hard to get rid of. almost impossible, in fact. So the Yuan-ti kind of don't like the Naga. The Naga are a thorn in their side. They're something they can't control. Yeah, absolutely fight at level 10. Is there anything published with true word forget, so people from a huge area simply forget all knowledge of something, pass away to kill a god by forgetting them? Oh, it's probably just easier to kill the entire population of an area if you're a god, honestly. Cloud kill everything. What was that, Kikastig? Who did the rebound of the books for the giveaway? Oh, I will. I've talked about that many times. Oh, you got me on the spot with brain freeze. I'll get back to you. Top 10 favourite places in the Forgotten Realms. Jeez, I haven't even finished exploring the Forgotten Realms, honestly. Yeah, that's the same sort of deal, Dragon Turtle. The copyright is pretty lenient, so I'm more inclined to follow the direct letter of the law with the copyright. Making my own content is probably the easiest way to get around it, to be fair. I mean, that's the whole point of this channel, right? Is to learn D&D and share what I learn with you. The winner of it should do an unboxing. Yeah, it's true. Yeah, that prize pack is still waiting right here beside me, waiting for the lockdown to finish and me be able to post it out, which I'm itching to do because it's an awesome prize and I want it in their hands as soon as possible. Read the Dark Vision book. I referenced the Dark Vision book. We'll take the Hypnotoad. Have some more cheese. Oh, it's a beautiful day outside. I should be out gardening. Voldemort. Well, I'm always up for a collab. Seems like a lot of D&D monster races have a superiority complex. Psh, the civilized races do. Oh, the D&D content will never stop, Dragon Turtle. You've got nothing to worry about there. The Yuan-ti see the Saruk as contemporaries. Like, the Yuan-ti kind of wanted to usurp the Saruk. Oh, I actually really like the new Unearthed Arcana material. I've got it... where did I put that? Right here, in fact. So, we've got the Phantom Rogue. Whispers of the Dead, Wails of the Grave. This is very Mike Mills, edgy rogue character, right? Like, one of the things that's kind of was textbook Mike Mills was make an edgy character and have no repercussions whatsoever for being basically infused with evil shit. It's like, oh yeah, you know, my character's like edgy, blah blah blah. Yeah, he's like that character from Brooklyn Nine. It's like, I'm so edgy. It's like, not really, Mike. You're just causing a big problem for people who factor evil and influence into their games. You just seem to ignore it. Like, I'm not sure Mike Mills is the sort of person whose warlock character would ever have anything to do with the patron of his warlock. Just level up every single time and get the powers, but none of the responsibility. So, Warlock, Genie Pact Warlock. Genies would be in your shit all the time. They would be up your ass. Genies are very controlling and manipulative and fickle. Like, That's the whole point of a genie, right? Is to like, I have power and you must do what I say. Like they're manipulative and they like putting their fingers in many pies and having ownership of things. They're like they're greedy and sort of arrogant and hedonistic. So yeah, that would be an interesting warlock to play for sure. Because what sort of person would ask for extended powers from a warlock, if from a genie, if not being a manipulative person themselves, trying to outsmart the genie? Then, of course, you've got my the Order of the Scribes Wizard. It's like this character class was made for me, right? Awakened Spellbook. Talking to your spellbook. Master Scrivener. Wizardly Quill. Manifest Mind. One with the Word. This is a fantastic character class. I don't care what the mechanics say. Just everything about that idea appeals to me. You've been using the video on the Orbs of Dragonkite, specifically metallic for a campaign where Tiamat and the Chromatic Dragons rule the world. Ooh, nice. You could just go to Abir for something like that. Although technically, because Tiamat is not a primordial, she's not allowed to rule Abir, which is interesting. You want more Sarok info? It's coming up, I'm sure. yeah, I know. It's easy to just kill everyone. Yeah. You're probably right, Pale Rider, that Cormier would be in my top 5. Candlekeep. Candlekeep would be my number 1 for places to go and live in the Forgotten Realms, mainly because it's just safer. Of course, I'd like to go and check out Waterdeep, and the giant statues would be really cool for postcards and stuff. I would like to go and check out Evening Star in Cormier. Sounds like a really nice place to hang out. Lurin, homeland of my people, the halflings, for sure. Where else? The fantastic show Empire. Like, the Karatur is just a hotbed of civilization and wondrous things. Everybody discounts, like, the Forgotten Realms also includes Karatur. So that would be cool. Do I think that High Imaskar will return in some form? Yes, I think so. As long as Deep Imaskar persists, there's a chance that High Imaskar will return. Yep, more ecology videos, more cuisine, more plants and wildlife, more demons and devils and cosmology, certainly more dragons, more magical artifacts. I'll keep on putting out 2 videos a week, and it doesn't, even 2 videos a week is nowhere near enough, right? There's got to, I feel like there's so much stuff I need to do. What do you think of the Imaskari Lord Warlock class? Never heard of it. Moonring. Is that for real? A warlock? Really? Can who get the virus? Dragons? What? AJ the Dire Halfling Sage Wizard. Yeah, that's me. Also a question, and how would you play a devil or demon warlock, patron warlock? Entirely differently. So I just talked about this on the Discord server, actually, because there was a really good debate about, or a question about, how do you even form a pact with these things? How do you get in contact with them? What's it like, etc. And it's entirely different between being a warlock of a demon or a warlock of a devil. A devil is inherently a lawful being. So they are, like, my example was, if you cut a devil and they bleed a pool of blood into a petri dish, and then not a petri dish, into a slide, and you look under it under a microscope, you can count an orderly number of red and white blood cells. They're in there in a precise proportion, because fundamentally the physics of this thing is lawful. It's not like being a lawful evil alignment on the prime-material plane. It's a lawful evil creature. It's from a lawful evil plane of existence. So everything in the nine hells is lawful evil from the atoms up. It's arranged that way. It's built into their physics. So that's an important distinction, that it can't be not lawful evil. So when a devil is dealing with a mortal from the prime material plane, we have an element of chaos in us that they find deeply disturbing. So as far as the devil is concerned, a mortal is just an enemy waiting to happen. They expect us to break a contract. They expect us to never keep our word. They expect us to become the enemy. And they set these contracts and stuff up for us so that eventually we will break the rules, and then we become officially part of the enemy forces, law versus chaos. And then we are subject to the rules of being prisoners of war. If you're already a lawful evil character, then you're destined to go to the nine hells anyway and fight in the war effort. So the contracts are entirely different. They're more like a terms of service sort of thing after you die and become a petitioner in the nine hells. Then you sign up in the forces of that particular devil. Demons are entirely different. They're fundamentally chaotic. They always break their promises. Dealing with them is going to end up in a world of hurt. 100%. So really, it's trying to stave off the worst case scenario when you're dealing with demons. Making pacts with them is forcing them to comply, and them trying to break free of your control, sort of thing. So it's an entirely different sort of thing. The devil will offer, the demon will be compelled. So that's how I run it. Hey, thanks, Mason. What coloured dragon would be most likely to become an adventurer? I want to play a wormling and can't decide what colour would make sense. Bronze or silver would be my choices. Yeah. Any of the metallic, really. Gold, probably not so much. They have a lot of obligations and stuff anyway. Silver dragons have their own society. So they become adventurers with other silver dragons. They often go off planet to other planes of existence and things like that. Bronze dragons are very interested in ancient history, ruins and things like that. So, and also dealing with humanity and civilizations and stuff, and being part of history. They find that compelling. So quite likely bronze dragons. Brass and copper. Copper would probably be more aligned with going along for the lark, going along for the adventure and the fun of it. But if things got really serious, there's a good chance that the copper dragon will cut and run. Yeah, so bronze dragons, I think, would be my number one choice for an adventuring dragon, hatchling, or wormling. Azeroth Rising, thank you very much. Hey AJ, do you know much about the Keepers from 3.5 edition Fiend Folio? Any theories about their lore? They seem largely forgotten. Yeah, because I've forgotten about them completely too. I'll have to look them up. Sorry, I need. That's not something that's on the top of my head. Oh, dragons getting coronavirus. I don't know. Thanks, Justin. Yeah, song dragons are so often in humanoid form that they actually identify more with their polymorphed self than they do with their draconic self. Humans are not bad creatures, no, but we are capable of breaking our promises whenever we choose. Devils are not. Dragon flu? Yeah, I think it's okay that dragons would have their own diseases, for sure. Something like a uncontrollable build-up of elemental power which they have to release as a body-wide sneeze that blows everything off the shelves around them would be really interesting. Or, like a blue dragon has a static problem. So things just cling to them. Or they become magnetized. That would be hilarious. It's like, what's wrong with you, man? My sword keeps going towards your chest. It's like, yeah, I got a case of magnetism. That would be hilarious. Speaking of warlocks, would one make a dragon their patron for a warlock pact? Yeah, for sure. Remember, the power of the pact doesn't have to come from the patron. They may just have access to a particular type of power that they can't get themselves, but they can connect the dots between you, your character, and that power. Good example is you could have an arcane from Spelljammer be your patron, for instance, who sets you up with some sort of machinery which grants you arcane power. You could be hooked up with like a Splugorth from Rifts Atlantis, who gives you bioimplants, which gives you the equivalent of magical power. You could be infected with a host of different parasites that the patron keeps in check with serums and stuff like that they deliver to you. All sorts of possibilities with the warlock. Bear in mind, though, that most people are going to play their warlock, or most players are going to just concentrate on the mechanics of their warlock, and it's up to the DM, you, to actually put the patron in their lives in the game to make them influence, their character. Otherwise, people will just cross-class into warlock to get free zappy zap spells. What's that? You're getting Ochimo, the Spirit Warrior, as an adventure you're getting in your bundle. Oh, thanks a lot. Cool. Looking forward to it. Even number of blood cells, yeah. Making pacts with devils. The devil thinks you're a sketchy boss. Making pacts with demons is like taming big cats, right? Yep, you got it in one, Grace. Sketchy employee, more like. Taming big cats that are on meth, yeah, for sure. Is there any lore on what Karsus is doing now? Yes, there is. Karsus with the K is currently a spirit remnant which is trapped in a large red crystal. That's it. Yeah, you can imagine a Dragonborn's flame burning brightly red if it's just had like chilies, or if it's had like a particularly noxious bunch of cabbage, it would burn like green or yellow. It's like there's a biological aspect to their flame. It's like, what did you have for dinner? Your flame smells terrible. Your flame smells like asparagus. Are there Leviathans in D&D at all? Any edition? Yes. Yep. Leviathan's an actual big monster thing. Yep, big monster fish thing. Science fantasy series about dragons. Dragons live in extended massive families. Yeah. I mean, there's a little bit of like lineage and the reputation from coming from a certain pair of parents, for instance. Kind of like a Harry Potter thing. It's quite possible to have a Harry Potter scenario with dragons. Like have a dragon Harry Potter. Like seriously. Like you were attacked as a hatchling by Voldemort, the Black Dragon, who hit you with a death beam. Like he hit you with a disintegration spell, and all you've got is like a lightning bolt scar on your head. It's like, well, your parents were, this dragon and that dragon, who are, certainly. Blue dragons are bipolarized. Yep. Are there any good spell weavers? I don't know. They're really weird. Maybe. Enjoy a fresh brie. Thank you. I do actually have some blue brie in the fridge, but I'm going to be enjoying this with a bunch of crackers once I get off stream. Because I realise that some people don't like lip smacking sounds or crunching crackers sounds through my microphone. I don't know why people would find this bothering. I mean, I'm basically talking with a food ingesting orifice that's connected to my respiratory organ. So you're listening to me flapping meat around and making squeaking and farting sounds with my food intake. Talking is weird. Can I have a Demon Dand Warlock? Absolutely. I mean, I'm pretty open to any sort of warlock patron you may have guessed. If you can justify it as if it's an interesting story element, for sure. Have an aboleth patron for sure. Oh, somebody asked me what the difference between aberrations and monstrosities are. Aberrations are essentially things that don't conform to normal physical laws of animals on that world. So they're otherworldly, they're really weird. They just, you cut it open and you don't know what you're looking at, sort of thing. Like the organs don't seem to make sense. Whereas monstrosities are things that are legendary creatures that are unusual, or they're mage bred, so they're created through wizardry. They're unnatural, but they're artificial, sort of thing. So, yeah. Monstrosities can be legendary creatures, they can be mutated creatures, so excuse me, like an owlbear, things like that. Boy, I'm not failing talking to this morning. Thanks, Robert. What other types of entities would make a good warlock patron? For example, would Rilmani or an arcane or a Lachey work for a patron? Lachey, absolutely. Although the Lachey would have to have a pretty good reason for doing anything with a mortal. They've been around for a very long time. In fact, there's an ancient in the Dark Vision novel, for instance. There's a painting in there which depicts the imaska receiving a series of books from the Lachey, some tomes of arcane lore. And a lot of people have said that those are the imaska arcana, but in actual fact only one of the imaska arcana is a book, which is the third, which I talk about in the video as well, which is found in the Underdark book. Thank you, Global Product and Gaming Review. Also, a big shout out and thanks to all the people who have signed up to Patreon over the last couple of months. There's been a big upswing in patrons, which is fantastic. A lot of people have worked out that you only need to donate $1 per month and get access to all of the stuff. So that's great, and I really appreciate it. $1 a month is not a lot to get access to all of my scripts and any exclusive content that I produce. So, yeah. Thank you. It all adds up, it really does. Like an extra, 14 people sign up, that's an extra $14 to support me every month, so that's fantastic. They're made out of meat, yeah, exactly. I wish you hadn't used any of those words. I was just identifying some strange fungus that my brother found in he works as a share milker, and he found some some unusual parasol fungus, and was asking me whether it was safe to eat. And I gave him some advice after doing some extensive research. And yeah, it was, turns out. Well, he's not dead yet, so all is well. Harry Potter was a monstrosity? Well, no, he wasn't created through wizardry. He was created the regular sort of way, I assume. That whole, well, your skin has got your mother's love. It's like, okay. Love magic can mean entirely different things. Oh, we'll have to talk about that, Pale Rider. Do I know what caused the Mascari plague? I'm still in the process of researching. If you're taking a Warlock Pact for role-playing, but don't want Warlock levels, you can just get a small boon as part of the Pact. Yeah, I suppose so. Yep. I mean, that could be... Boons are a part of the rewards and resources that you have in 5th edition. I don't think boons are used enough, really. Like, getting a boon from a god could be a temporary thing. It's like, I'm going to give you dark vision for the purposes of retrieving this for my clerical order. Like, somebody in the Underdark stole a religious text which has got a spell in there that they need So I'm going to give you dark vision for the extent of this stay in the Underdark. Also, that whole there's a rule about dark vision. Dark vision isn't seeing complete darkness vision. There's a limit to dark vision where you get disadvantage or deal with obscured vision sort of thing. There's a little bit more to dark vision in 5th edition that I don't think a lot of people are aware of. Thanks, James. Which lawful evil deity allies with lawful good deities most often? Bane is quite capable of making alliances with other gods. Asmodeus, if you look at him as a deity, is quite capable of making pacts with other gods as well. But they're generally temporary. Yeah. Generally temporary. How common and attainable is magic to make hybrid creatures like owlbears or artificial half-dragons? Artificial half-dragons would be quite difficult because it's kind of implied that they were originally created artificially or from a combination of different sources, including primordial. Owlbears are a lot easier because they're just basically combining 2 regular animals. So I can kind of see it it's still... When you think about it, an owlbear is more like a owl that is bred to the point where it's like a bear, rather than around the other way. It's not a bear that has owl properties added to it. It's an owl that has been bred to the point where it looks like a bear and acts in many ways like a bear, right? So it's got an owl beak and stuff like that. So, I don't know. I think it would be different in every single case. Some wizards, for instance, would concentrate on making some sort of combination of insects, and all of their mage creations would be insect-based because that's what they know. That's my take on it anyway. A meat mage. A goatee patron for warlocks, and the only requirement would be to grow a goatee. Oh, champions of the gods? Maybe. Would I run a campaign for somebody else? And how? What, provide all the material for them and then DM it? Is that what you're talking about? I don't know. Would I make a published adventure? Maybe. I'm more inclined to just give away material to make your own adventures, like random roll tables and advice and things like that, inspiration or information on particular areas or monsters and things like that. Also, if somebody has ideas for campaigns and things like that, when they want to run specific ideas past me or get some inspiration, if they have a scenario and they're just where do I go from here, I'm available through email. You can just contact me and I'll throw you some ideas your way. It's my job. Thanks, Tim. If you were a warlock patron, what kind of followers would I want? Good question. Probably one of the things I like watching on Netflix, for instance, is the shows where they get wrecks in cars and things, and they make wondrous things out of them. So I'd like craftspeople and artisans. Artificers, I think, would be the coolest thing. So getting inspiration from me to create works of wonder, artifacts, magical items, spell books, new types of technology or foodstuffs and things like that. So inspiring creativity would be what I would most prefer. So yeah, my followers would be creatives, bards and artificers and wizards. Thanks, Robert. With all this talk of ancient mages and forgotten magical lore, has me thinking about Halaster and his many students in Undermountain. Yeah, well, Halaster was originally a mage from Imaska. And Halaster was a fan of spellmoots, which is where wizards come together in enclaves, like little clubs, where they have like a fair, a meeting, and they shoot spells at each other and talk about developing new spells and get to basically congregate with like-minded individuals. That's what a spellmoot was. So in Imaska, that was a thing that happened. So wizards came together and practiced their arts and things. And in Imaska, the basis of their civilization was had an underpinning of magic as technology, magic as a right of every living being to use. Back then, magic was much more accessible to anybody who could use it. So you didn't have to qualify with a particular level of intelligence or anything like that. If you knew the formula, if you knew the words, and you knew the gestures, you could do magic. So their society was also built on ancient knowledge that they gathered from the old world, the world of the creator races. So they picked over the ruins of the giants and the dragons, and the elven civilizations, and they pieced it all together, and they had an incredible storehouse of information and knowledge, including the knowledge that the elves used to split the world asunder, and that was the magic that Ao used to separate the worlds of Tyrell and Aber. And it was also the magic which was fundamental to creating pocket dimensions and tears in reality where they could insert their own physical laws. So they became masters of extra-dimensional space, and so their civilization was quite different to others that were around at the time, because you literally walk inside one of their houses and it's like the TARDIS. It's larger on the inside than it is on the outside. Not only that, but the affluent wizards of their community could walk around through portals just like we would use a bus or a train or something like that, whereas underlings in their society were disallowed from using those convenient and risky forms of transportation, because an invading force who had access to those portals openly could make it right into the most sensitive areas of their civilization and do devastating damage. So they blocked off access, and that carried over right into them forming a bunker, a retreat from a world devastated. Their civilization became devastated on the surface, and so they said, you know what, we don't even need this world anymore. We can make our own worlds. And they retreated into extra-dimensional space and became a sub-race of humanity called the Deep Amaskari, who look different to other humans. What official D&D setting would I rather live in if I had to? I do quite like the Forgotten Realms. Anyway, even though it is absolutely full of horrific danger, there are some pockets of peace. And I do like the idea of using magic. Magic would be cool. Magic would be very convenient. Being able to go and heat up your cup of coffee, for instance, would be fantastic. But just generally being in the D&D multiverse would be kind of a problem. Because it's got things like, real gods and demons and things like that. They're not theoretical. So, I don't know. I'll just go and retreat to my room in Candlekeep. Love magic. Yeah, I know. If I could be a god, describe my portfolio and tenets of my faith. um, kind of like Denier in a way, like gain knowledge and share it with other people. The more knowledge you share with others, the better you are. Really, the more effective you are. Be in service to others, and do unto others as you would have them do unto you. I suppose would be the core of it. Be a good person, just because being a good person is the better way to live. Being a bad person just is more difficult, honestly. The owl, the owl-beaked platypus. Can chromatic dragons polymorph like metallic dragons? They can using magic. They just can't do it inherently without casting spells. But they can still cast spells and polymorph like any other creature can. Well, apart from ones which have got immutable form. But chromatic dragons don't have an immutable form. They can be polymorphed. And they can do it to themselves. My weekend was good, Emil. Thank you. Life would be a lot more interesting with real gods and demons interfering all the time. No boring days. Look, man, we've got people as evil as demons interfering with our lives right now. We know who they are. And we've got fantastically awesome people who are as good as gods on the planet right now who are doing beneficial things for everyone. So these forces are already at play. They're just not supernatural. So in many ways, if you're living on a world of fantasy, it's not a world of fantasy for you. It's a world of reality. So for them, gods are just a thing. You know, they don't. They have faith, yes, but they also have certainty. I could do a little bit of lore on the world of Kryn, I suppose. Maybe. I don't know. How many people are actually playing campaigns in Kryn right now? Can I get a show of hands? In fact, if anybody is playing a game of Kryn, of Dragonlance right now, just say yes. All capital letters in the chat. This is a good sample of 138 people. If anybody's currently running a game of Dragonlance. Real life needs fewer mastermind rogues. Yeah, true. Or just Kender lore. Yeah. Talenta Plains. Yeah. Knowledge God of the Hobbits. I can handle that. I'm not seeing any yeses yet. Dead silence. Oh, Mike. For sure, Mike? Really? How long have you been running this campaign? No, I don't need people to write no. Just if you're currently running a campaign, actively running an actual role-playing campaign of Dragonlance. That's what I want to know. Yeah, being interested in the setting lore is one thing, but actually producing videos for people who are actively making games and stuff to inspire them is another. You did one just a few months ago. How did it go? Two campaigns in Kollros for the last 3 years. Oh, nice. Okay. So why aren't you making videos about Dragonlance? Maha. Well, yeah. I mean, you can visit Dragonlance. You can visit with the World of Kryn through Planescape or Spelljammer, for sure. So, I mean, there you go. Out of 130 odd people, we've got one or two. And you'll have 5 or 6 who are running Eberron. You know, the vast majority of people are running homebrew. So they're not running a setting at all, they're just running whatever they want. And they're picking and choosing from various different settings. So I'm more likely to say, on the world of Kryn, blah, 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 and on Athos, blah, 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 blah. You know, if I'm talking about a type of magic item, or like artificers, or lizard folk from different worlds and things, that's where I'm tying in the multiverse. So making videos specifically about the lore of Dragonlance is interesting enough. I mean, I do have, where is it? I have the history of the world of Kryn, a history of Dragonlance somewhere. I got it from the DM's Guild not so long ago. I was just reading through it a little bit. Oh, it's in here somewhere. So many books. I need to organise my books. And I just got a couple more in the post, which I'm about to read. One is Faiths of the Forgotten Realms. I'm really looking forward to reading this one. It's a really good source book, actually. Packed full of info. Well laid out. So this is current information on Saluni, Shar, Malar, all of the gods of Forgotten Realms. Heaps of info. Spells. Cyric. And excellent index. And do we have an index at the front of the book as well? Yes, we do. So, 10 points. Skullport, Dragon Swindle, is a companion to Dragon Heist. So if you have Dragon Heist, you can expand your game with Dragon Swindle, which takes place in the settlement underneath Waterdeep. I'm continuing on with the Grand History of the Forgotten Realms and reading through all of that as well. That's a huge amount of information to absorb. But yeah, my main read at the moment is the Guide to the Forgotten Realms. And I'm also delving a little bit into Undermountain from 3.5 edition. Yeah. Reading a lot of different stuff at the same time. Maybe you can just be the match that sparks the fire to get people into Dragonlance. Yeah, no. Any advice for a Storm King's Thunder player to engage the DM more? Basically, feed the DM ideas to get your character more engaged in the game, I think. Just dialogue. It's impossible to answer that sort of question because I don't know what the relationship between you and that DM is. Whether you've been friends for a long time, whether you've just met them recently, whether you're playing a game every single week or you're meeting once a month. I don't know. I would say keep in constant conversation outside of game about the game. So talk about the game in day-to-day conversation with that person and just talk about other stuff other than the game occasionally. The Candlekeep book. Oh. I don't think I've got that one yet. Also, I haven't got the Ed Greenwood's Borderlands, Border Kingdoms book yet either. Yeah, Grand History of the Forgotten Realms is one of the best books ever. Can we get an ecology video on Dristu Erden? He's an elf with some swords who goes schnicker-snack. I'd be more interested in an ecology of Guinevere. Yeah. An extensive index is a good indication that your book is being well researched and written. How to avoid classic DM burnout. Always use your best ideas first. Oh, so Carsus basically got cursed by the gods because they wouldn't let him into the afterlife. So he became a remnant, a fragment sort of thing. The deserts of Athos. Well, it's time for me to go, everybody. I have things to do. It's been awesome talking to you. It's been quite a successful live stream, actually, so maybe I'll do some more. Hey, thanks, Tim. Welcome to Silver Dragon. Maybe I'll do some more like Monday live streams as well. Yeah. Just to open, he's this guy, you know. Okay. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. I'm going to enjoy some cheese now and watch another car restoration video. And hopefully this insanity will be chilling out a little bit soon. Everything's probably going to chill out a lot soon. Spell moots get raided Burkled a lot? Nah, not so much, I don't think. They probably keep the spell moots quite secret. Thanks for the last donation there, James. It was a fun stream. Is there anything I didn't get to talk about? Turning evil, pacts, imaska, coffee, cheese? No, covered it all. Great. Cheerio. Off to do some gardening.